Think about the last time you actually thought about your tap water. Not whether it tasted weird, just what it actually is and where it came from. Most people picture a big filter somewhere, some pipes, done. That mental image is almost completely wrong. The water in your tap right now has been chemically altered at multiple points along a journey that began miles from your home. And the version sitting in your pipes is almost nothing like what left the treatment plant. Something happened in between. Something was added deliberately and then deliberately allowed to fade. And buried inside that process is one of the most surprising pieces of engineering hiding in plain sight. Here's what's actually going on. Almost everyone has the same mental model of tap water. It falls as rain somewhere, ends up in a reservoir, gets run through some kind of giant filter, and then travels through pipes to your house. Simple, passive, basically a long garden hose with a cleaning step in the middle. And honestly, that image makes sense, because for most of us, water just works. You turn the tap, it comes out, end of story. There's no reason to think about it harder than that. But here's the thing, that picture leaves out almost everything interesting. It skips the chemistry, the pressure engineering, the deliberate decisions being made about what's in the water at every single point along the route. It treats the pipe network like a neutral container, just holding water and handing it off. It isn't. The pipes are active. The water inside them is changing the entire time it's in transit. And the treatment plant, that's not even close to the last place something is added to what you drink. The real story starts much earlier than most people realize, and it starts with a crisis that had nothing to do with thirst. 19th century cities were dying, not slowly, fast. Cholera could hollow out a neighborhood in a week. And before anyone understood germ theory, before anyone connected contaminated water to mass death, entire populations were drinking from the same sources they were dumping waste into. The engineering response wasn't about convenience, it was about survival. But disease wasn't the only pressure. Cities were also burning. Fires would jump block to block with nothing to stop them, because there was no reliable way to move large volumes of water to where it was needed, fast. So municipal water systems were built to solve two catastrophic problems at once, epidemic and inferno. And that dual purpose meant the infrastructure had to be massive, redundant, and capable of pushing millions of gallons across hills, valleys, and entire regions on demand. That's not a simple system. That was never going to be a simple system. The pipes running under your street right now are descendants of an emergency response. Overbuilt on purpose, designed to survive chaos, not optimized for elegance. And here's why that matters. When engineers eventually figured out that water itself could be made safer through chemistry, they had to apply that chemistry to a network that was already enormous, already aging, and already full of surprises. What they added, and how they added it, turned out to be far stranger than anyone expected. Chlorine isn't just dumped into your water and forgotten. That would actually be a problem. What water engineers do is far more deliberate than that. They dose chlorine at the treatment plant with a specific number in mind. Not the number that keeps water clean at the plant, but the number that keeps it clean at your faucet, miles away, hours later. They're not treating the water where it is. They're treating it for where it's going. Here's why that matters. Chlorine doesn't stay stable in water. It reacts. It breaks down. It fights off bacteria and organic material the entire length of the pipe. And every battle it wins costs it a little more of itself. By the time the water reaches the far end of the distribution network, the chlorine concentration is a fraction of what it was when it left the plant. Engineers know this. They plan for it. The decay rate is part of the design. So there's a minimum threshold, a floor, that utilities are required to maintain at every point in the system, not just at the source. That means the dose at the plant has to be high enough that even after all that traveling and reacting, the water arriving at the most distant corner of the network still clears the bar. It's less like filling a bottle and more like launching a controlled burn, calibrated to still be doing its job when it reaches the other end. But here's the part that should make you pause. That calculation assumes the pipes are behaving the way the engineers modeled. And in the oldest parts of most cities, the pipes are doing something the model didn't fully account for. Somewhere beneath your street, there are pipes that have been sitting in the ground since before your grandparents were born. And they are not just carrying water, they are reacting with it. Over decades, the inside walls of older iron and concrete mains develop a crust. Engineers call it tuberculation, essentially rust and mineral deposits that build up in layers, like plaque inside an artery. But mixed into that crust is something biological, a biofilm, a thin, living layer of microbial communities that has learned to survive in exactly the low chlorine conditions that exist at the far ends of the distribution network. The same fading chlorine that was supposed to protect the water is being consumed by the pipe itself before it ever reaches you. This is not a flaw that slipped through. Engineers know it happens. But the rate at which old pipes eat disinfectant is genuinely difficult to predict, because every section of pipe has its own history, its own crust, its own microbial fingerprint. The model the engineers built assumes a certain rate of chlorine decay. The pipe sometimes has other ideas. So utilities built a solution directly into the neighborhoods, hidden in plain sight, inside nondescript utility boxes, tucked into small concrete vaults, sometimes disguised as unremarkable street furniture, are secondary chlorination booster stations. Their entire job is to redose the water mid-journey, because the pipe network consumed the first dose before the water could finish the trip. The treatment plant isn't the only place your water gets treated. Your neighborhood is part of the system too. And that raises a question worth sitting with. If the pipes are this active, this chemically unpredictable, how does anyone actually know what's coming out of your tap? The answer is they test constantly, at hundreds of points across the entire network, not just at the plant. Your utility isn't checking water quality once and hoping for the best. They're running an ongoing calculation, sampling taps, hydrants, and monitoring stations spread across the whole distribution system, because they know the water one block from the treatment plant is chemically different from the water arriving at the far end of a decades-old main in an older neighborhood. Same source, same treatment, but the journey changes it. Chlorine levels, pH, even trace mineral content can shift meaningfully across just a few miles of pipe. So the system is never really finished treating your water. It's adjusting, sampling, responding. Every single day, invisibly, the network is being tuned in real time to keep what reaches you inside a safe range. That's not a backup plan, that is the plan. Which means the faucet you've been turning on every morning without thinking about it. It's not an end point at all. It's a checkpoint. That's what your faucet actually is. The last observable point on a system that has been making calculations on your behalf since before you woke up. That faint chlorine smell some mornings, most people assume something is off. A pipe problem, an overdose, something to be suspicious of. It's the opposite. That smell means the disinfectant traveled the entire length of the network, survived the pipe walls, outlasted the dead zones, and still arrived with enough strength to let you know it made the journey. That's not a flaw in your water. That's the system working exactly as designed. And on the mornings you don't smell anything, that's not nothing either. That's the calculation landing precisely. Chlorine dosed, decayed, and balanced to the point where protection is present but undetectable. Both outcomes were engineered. So the next time you turn on the tap, you'll know what you're actually at the end of. Not a pipe, not a filter. A living network of chemistry and infrastructure that has been actively monitored, adjusted, and chemically maintained every hour of every day. Across miles of pipe, through pressure shifts, past century-old iron mains, all the way to you. The water in your glass has been somewhere. It's been through something. And quietly, invisibly, something made sure it arrived safely. You just never noticed until now.